NGE, Nobody Dies Chapter 5, Where Angels Fear to Tread, an Evangelion fanfic. Of all my accomplishments, of all I have done, of all I have given to the world, the way I finally brought the Evangelions to life horrifies me and disgusts me more than anything. When I was growing up, I was fascinated by the work of Robert Oppenheimer. He said, once, that he considered a line of the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu was attempting to persuade the prince to do his duty and to impress him. He appears in his full glory, his multi-armed form. He says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." When Unit 01 first activated, following the successful test of the synthesis system, I knew that I had become death. I am the destroyer of worlds. Diary entry log, Dr. Y. Ikari, October 18, 2007. Sitting on the roof of his apartment building, Kensuke Kaida narrows his eyes, furrowing his brow as he goes through the memory of his digital camcorder. He saw something he needs to get a clear picture of without having to connect it to a computer. Because if he does, he could get into serious trouble and... He freezes, closing the viewfinder, replay window as the hands come down on his shoulder and feels her bending down to ear level. "What you doing?" "Hi, Ray. How did you get up here?" A small little laugh. "I climbed the side." You don't have a fire escape on the outside, Ray." She clicks her tongue to some sort of rhythm, walking around him and sitting cross-legged in front of him. He notices, now, that she is in her pajamas and slippers as she gently takes the camera from him and flips through the video. "So," she starts, "you recorded me when I killed the angel." He nods, slowly. "And that's classified," she continues, shrugging. "So, you're supposed to go to jail for, treason. But, I have a better idea. Wanna hear it?" He nods, slowly. He nods not out of actually wanting to hear the idea, but knowing that it is a bad idea to say no to it. She says, leaning forward, "I could use some new friends. And I'm choosing you. 'Cause if you don't, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. And not because it'd be long. You're small, kind of pretty, and soft. So you'd be someone's bitch really fast, and then someone would be jealous and knife you in the shower." She tilts her head, smiling, with teeth. "K?" He slowly nods, a strangled whimper escaping his throat. She claps her hands together and pulls his shaking form into a hug. "Oh, we're gonna have so much fun," she shouts. "We're gonna hang out and go to movies and talk about school. It'll be great." Smiling widely, showing more teeth than a human mouth should be able to hold, she disengages and backs up to the edge of the roof. "See you around," she says with a wave, "best buddy." And she drops off. Slowly taking the camcorder, he goes to the images Ray stopped at. She has cleared up the interference for him, so he can finally see what he was looking for. His eyes gaze upon the truth for a long moment. Kensuke Kaida sees what exactly he is in for. Eyes roll up into his head, and he collapses onto the roof. "The angel gave off some sort of modified EMP, Yui says, bracing on a railing as the carrier rocks. "We can't raise Unit 02 or the second child." A plume of water shoots up, the wake causing the carrier to list. Gritting her teeth, Misato swears, the kids ducking behind them as Shinji continues staring at the immobile purple mecha kneeling on the launch deck. "It's playing with us," Misato growls, "as long as Unit 01's blocking the runway, the over-the-rainbow can't launch fighters." Something impacts below. The entire ship pitches forward, both Hikari and Asuka screaming. Asuka's feet slip, pitching forward and sliding towards the railing and the drop to the deck. Diving, Shinji grabs her, twisting himself around to slam his back against the railing with a pained grunt. They both turn, slowly, as the carrier continues pitching, leaning down. Soon enough, they both see why. The white fins are on the deck, pulling its massive bulk onto the carrier. The head clears, Jaws click clacking as water splashes onto the deck and sends planes and copters dropping off into the deep. The tail whips into the Pacific, the eyes covering its back glowing as it hisses. And Unit 01's fist slams into its face. Shrieking, Gageel snaps, a second uppercut forcing it to release its hold on the carrier and drop back into the sea. The weight released, the carrier rocks violently, spraying water over the deck as Misato and Yui grab the railings for dear life. The ship pitches forward again, throwing Shinji and Asuka off the observation deck as Yui screams. And both land on a purple landing pad. Looking up into the yellow eyes of Unit 01, the purple mecha gently lowers its hand onto the flight deck, resting one knee against the tarmac before it pitches its head forward and the glow ceases. The metal plate on the back of its neck slides down and the white tube spins out. "Okay," he says, slowly helping Asuka up. "Asuka, can you get back inside?" Turning away from the mecha, they turn towards the doors to the interior of the carrier. Right before the spilt oil from the trashed planes catches fire and forms a wall of flame between them and safety. Asuka says, fingers fidgeting, "I think the angel's angry." He reaches into the folds of his jacket, taking out 2 white hair clips. He slides them onto just above his temples, pulling off his gloves to reveal white gloves underneath, discarding his jacket and tapping his wrists. The A10 connectors spark to life, his eyes glowing faintly. "It's been years since I've been in a plug," she says, staring at the dormant Eva. "Well, I'm not leaving you here," he says, "you're coming with me." He begins unbuttoning his shirt. She raises an eyebrow in response. "Mom insisted I come prepared," he says with a grin, and yanks it open, revealing the white synthetic fabric with the black O1 underneath. Chapter 5, Where Angels Fear to Tread. The bridge of the Over the Rainbow was in a panic. It has already been determined that the combined UN Pacific Fleet has done all of jack and shit to the Angel. The prevailing theory currently bandied about was that the Angel was F_ing with them. Vice Admiral Michael Conker, attached to the fleet from the United States Navy, a man somewhere in his indeterminate 50s with graying hair, a white-pressed admiral's uniform, carried the expectation that this would be a cakewalk escort mission, albeit with a temperamental scientist and her creepy adopted son. But, The bridge lurches again, flag officers yelling out as the Angel makes a full breach and dives back in. "Admiral Conker," the new voice announces, storming onto the bridge with 2 teenagers, a total of 1 person in a military uniform and said temperamental scientist in tow. "This is now a nerve operation, and I need to commandeer the bridge." Conker looks the woman up and down. "And who are you?" The woman smirks, adjusts her glasses, and takes out her ID. "Dr. Uekari, Director of Project E, 3rd in command of Nerve, and the mother of the pilot that's about to save all our asses." Misato snorts. "I love watching that woman work." The plug lights up. Sitting in the pilot's seat, Shinji watches as the controls light up, track lights coming on along the sides of the cigar-shaped object as a dim view of the outside becomes slightly apparent. "Shinji, it's Mother. Where are you?" "I'm in the entry plug," he says, tapping his wrist, the sides of the chair popping open to reveal a series of switches. "I brought Asuka in with me." "Damn it, Shinji, having her in the plug is going to probably halve your sync score." "Mom, the flight deck is on fire. I'm not leaving her out there." A small chuckle in his ear. His mother's. "Good boy. Everyone's on the bridge of the Over the Rainbow. Good luck." He turns, looking over his shoulder. Her knuckles white, Asuka holds onto the back of the seat, smiling nervously. For her, the excitement of this entire day is giving way to the terror of what is about to happen. "Do you trust me?" he asks. I hope so," she stammers, her hair floating in the liquid, strands of it touching his cheek. "I'll try not to mess you up." He smiles back, taking a deep breath of the LCL. Turning, Gritting his teeth, he flips the first switches. Beginning manual activation, he announces, Stage 1, releasing muscle clamps and setting interface language to Japanese. Stage 2. The second set of switches flip. Ionizing LCL and setting plug depth. The entire plug lurches. Asuka's hold on the seat breaks, and with a yelp, she falls back into the plug. Slamming the restraints to release, he jumps out of the seat and grabs her wrist before she can hit the metal walls. "Sorry," she says. "Don't worry about it," he says, grabbing the seat. He pulls them both to the seat. Scratching his head, he finally sighs and sits down, pulling her onto his lap. "Sorry about this," she repeats. "I can't let you float around loose in there," he says, pulling more slack from the restraints. "You're not uncomfortable with this, are you?" Both their cheeks flush red, before she finally grabs the restraints and locks them around both of them. I'll be fine," she stammers. He nods. Thrusting his hands into the butterfly controls, he grips them and closes his eyes. "Stage 3, he announces, "Synchro start." The plug glows. The walls clear. The entire machine lurches as Asuka yelps, wrapping her arms around him as the computerized voice ticks off seconds. "Third child recognized," it announces, synchronization holding at 138%. Unit 01 activated. The controls glow, the spot at the center of his chest glowing in tune with his eyes. Level 4 functionality unlocked. Accessing Dirac Armory. "The hell," he says, as the walls begin flipping open, holographic displays, equipment configurations and weapon diagrams appearing. "Mum? What did I just do?" The image flips open on the screen, large enough for both him and Asuka to see. Yua raises an eyebrow and smirks. "I'll give commentary on this later," she says. "Shinji, Dr. Akagi explained to you that more capabilities of Unit 01 become available as you are able to mentally handle the strain. I'm not sure why, but you've unlocked the 4th level of functionality, giving you access to what's called a Dirac C, or pocket dimension, that I built to house special equipment and weaponry for Eva." She taps on something off-screen. "Since you don't know how it works," she says, "I will handle sending you equipment. Stand by." Around the Eva, the air warps as it stands. Accessing Type E underwater equipment. Miniature turbines appear, latching onto the back of the hands, the back of the feet, and the elbows and knees. Accessing Type F battery pack. The shoulder pylons disappear, replaced by ones larger and bulkier. Rolling its shoulders, the massive mecha clenches its fists before slamming its fist into its palm, grunting as steam escapes its nostril vents. "You have 15 minutes of battery power," Yu explains. "The Angel is circling the fleet and playing with us. Shinji, take it out." The image disappears. Turning to Asuka, who clenches her eyes shut as she holds on for dear life, he grits his teeth and watches as the head of the massive Angel surfaces and its tail idly splashes the water. Inhuman eyes lock with his. Watching him. "This is Unit 01, he announces, "we are engaging the Angel." Massive feet slam down onto the tarmac. Taking off in a run, the mecha sprints the distance, a knee bending as it reaches the end. With a mighty leap, the Evangelion takes off, popping open the right pylon and grabbing the progressive knife as it comes down upon the bulk of Gagil. "How the hell is he doing that?" Sae demands, leaning over Yu's shoulder and staring at the readout. The PDA has folded out into a full monitor screen attached to a console on the Rainbow's bridge. Turned into a miniature central dogma, data reads off, ticking off sync scores and seconds of power as the psychograph reading spikes. Shinji's maintained an almost 60% sync score, Misato says, glaring at the screen, "but how'd he manage a 70-point jump?" "I'm looking into it," Yu says with a sigh. "So many factors go into sync ratio that I could list them well after the Angel kills us. Psychological well-being, attachment to others, understanding of the Eva." Excuse me, Doc. The three women turn as Tsuji raises his hand. Yes, Mr. Suzuhara? Yui asks. Well, you said attachment, right? I mean, I'm not exactly a scientist, but ain't the fact that he's got a girl with him sort of related? The two scientists and tactical chief stare at each other. Get some tail, save the world? Misato asks. I am having such a long talk with him. When this is over, Yui sighs. Kyoko snorts. About time that girl was of some use. The presence of the shadow has been noticed. The beast of God growls to itself and decides that this will be a test of endurance, of durability, and of the survival instinct of the Lilim who has been foolish or brave enough to confront him. Should they be able to hear past ultrasonics, they would hear a laugh, as the great purple hands grab one of its dorsal fins. Inside the entry plug, though, that laugh is neither heard nor noticed. All Shinji hears is Asuka's scream and feels her arms tighten around his chest as the sky disappears to give way to the brine of the sea. He thinks of releasing, and the Eva follows suit. The hand releases its death grasp on the dorsal fin. The plug, Eva, and pilots jerk back in tune with Shinji's grunt. The LCL ripples, and her hair floats into his field of view. Through the stench of blood he can smell her shampoo. Through the whirring of the engine he can hear her tight, panicked breathing. I don't wanna die, she whispers, I don't wanna die. I don't wanna die. I don't wanna die. The angel turns, eyes lighting up the deep. Gripping the controls, eyes glowing in tune with the light on his chest, he sends the command. The turbines on the hands and back and legs spin to life, and like a 200-long torpedo, Unit 01 launches itself, bobbing out of the way as the angel snaps, darting over the angel and slamming a fist into one of its eyes, a spray of blue ichor staining the water as it shrieks, another fist hitting another eye as Unit 01 circles, sending ripples through the water as it ducks under the stunned, pained angel. Turbines spin to full power. Fists forward, the Evangelion launches at near-sonic speeds, both fists slamming into the midsection of the angel and carrying them both out of the water in full view of the fleet. Swapping out for Type C flight equipment. The turbines flash and disappear, the air around Unit 01 warping and shifting into glowing vents on the back, hands, and feet. They start, pulse, and ignite, carrying Unit 01 into the air as Gagil's form drops into the Pacific, roaring and snapping as the fleet opens fire, flaming shockwaves from the Rainbow's railguns striking the glowing field. This isn't good, Yui says, tapping commands on the glowing transparent keyboard appearing before her. I can't locate the core. It's probably in the angel's mouth. I'd say getting eaten is the last thing on Shinji's mind, Misato says, leaning in next to her. Please tell me you have something you can send over to him that can let him fry that son of a bitch. I'm looking, Katsuragi, Yui snaps. Let's see. No, 0-point cannon would just freeze it, and it doesn't have readable temperature. Dimension tide would destroy the entire fleet. Yui purses her lips. The screen shows her the inside of the plug, Asuka holding onto Shinji for dear life. This, Yui growls, I'm sending over the triple heavy maser. Unit 01's hands snap out, arms snapping out as the eyes flash white. The piping glows bright, iridescent green, the air around the right arm warping as the mecha snaps it towards the angel. Shifts in the air turn into rifts, forming into metal plates surrounding the armor of the arm, latching together as the outlines of 3 barrels form around the hand and branch out into a trigger. The plates surround the arm, the barrel lengthening, extending, and forming into a death blossom larger than the arm itself. Charging cannon, Yui says, ladies and gentlemen, I may suggest that we look away. The lines of blue and white run up the length of the cannon. Inside the plug, Shinji grits his teeth as the crosshairs center on the submerged form of the angel. His left hand leaves the control and gently places itself on Asuka's back, holding her close as he clenches his eyes shut. Hold on, he whispers. She nods, closing her eyes with a small cry. Breaking the surface of the water, Gregg lunges. 3 jaws part, exposing the red crystal core as it shrieks its rage and fury towards the blasphemy before it. And then the sky catches fire as if struck by flint, and the cannon lets loose a light that can be seen from orbit. "That was Plan B?" Misato asks, blinking. "I like Plan B. I could see Plan B through my eyelids." "Welcome to Nerve," Yui says, rubbing her eyes. "God's in his heaven because he's scared of our superior firepower." The bridge crew blinks, the light clearing as they stare. The sea is boiling, steam escaping into the atmosphere as the edge of the massive cannon glows and finally cools. A light runs over it, plates separating down the middle and fading into the place from whence they came. The air hangs silent as the cannon disappears, the Eva hanging in the air as Hikari and Tuji stare at it, relief evident on their faces. "Dr. Hikari?" Hikari asks, "Is it gone?" Yui turns back to her console, typing up data. Eyes snap open and she opens a channel. "Shinji!" She screams, "It's not dead." The water parts, the ET field pulsing as it launches itself. Its skin is bright red, several eyes pouring blue ichor into the water. In the plug, Shinji's eyes go wide. Asuka turns just in time to see the mouth open wide, exposing the core as it takes up the entire screen. Her breath catches in her throat, eyes going wide as she finds herself too terrified to even scream as her hand slips and touches his and the controls. The air around Unit 01 shifts, Gregg slamming headfirst into a hexagonal field. Teeth break and the skin flattens before it drops back into the ocean with a groan. "Mom," Shinji breathes, the core's in the mouth. "I need some suggestions. If you can neutralize the AT field and get it to open its mouth, we can fire on the core," Misato says, appearing in front of them on the plug. "On my mark, get back to the carrier deck." He nods, turning to Asuka. "Are you all right?" he asks. She only stutters in response, her right hand on his left, her other around his shoulders. She is holding on for dear life, and he lowers his head, gritting his teeth. "If I draw it back to the fleet, people are going to die," he says. "Asuka, will you trust me?" I will," she whispers, "I will." "Okay." He grips the controls tightly. Engines flare and the mecha shoots into the air, twisting around before diving towards the water. His mother and Misato both scream in his ear, and he drives back the yelling, as Gregg shoots out of the water, mouth open. Unit 01's fists slam into its face, driving them both into the water as the jets sputter and die. "Are you ready to die?" Shinji grits his teeth, shaking his head. The fist drives into Gregg's mouth and strikes the core. A single hairline fracture comes down the center, and the Angel of the Sea roars, spitting them out before turning and striking Unit 01 in the midsection with its tail. Shinji grips his teeth. Asuka screams in pain. The Eva is launched from the water, crashing onto the carrier deck. Picking itself up, eyes glowing, it climbs onto its knees and onto its feet as the Angel charges. Roaring, screaming, eyes glowing and tail slashing the waves, it dives through the hail of fire and artillery, core bared and teeth glowing. "Damn it," he whispers. Taking deep, ragged breaths, he looks down. Her eyes are clenched shut, her lip trembling. She is synced, too. Everything that happens to the Eva, she feels, too. Releasing the controls, he wraps his arms around her, her shaking slowing down, her eyes looking up to his. "Well, I think this holds promise." "Damn it," he repeats, "I'm going to eject. Get you out." No. "You're hurt," he says, "you're hurt because you're in here." No, she stammers, gritting her teeth, "Put that F_R down." He nods. Hands dart out, grabbing the controls. Her hand on his wrist as the connection is mad and his eyes go wide, glowing blue. The entire plug shakes as the core beats below him. Sync ratio holding at 228%. Level 6 functionality unlocked. Access granted to the Megaroku. That isn't possible, Yua whispers. What the hell is the Megaroku? Misato asks. The single highest power melee weapon available in the Dirac Armory, Yua says, layman's term, progressive sword. The green piping on the Eva's arms glow iridescent green, dispelling shadows around it as its eyes flash white like spotlights. Reaching its right hand forward, it opens its hand, and in response, the air parts. Splitting down the middle like ripe fruit, it gives way to a glowing portal. First revealed is the red pommel and blue hilt, twisting grooves along the metal and alloy. The massive hand of Unit 01 wraps around it, the pommel humming as the engine within it spins to life. The cracks in the air become brighter and more pronounced. A segmented blade of reflective metal pulled from the rift as a low growl echoes through Unit 01's armored head. As the tip clears and the rift snaps shut, the plates of the Evangelion's armor begin to glow and shift. Those who look closely can see the outlines of 8 claw-shaped wings hovering behind it. Those who listen can swear they hear the thing breathe. As the hands close around the handle, the edge of the blade glows with orange light, the hum of the sword's motor spinning like a nuclear turbine. Shifting the sword, 1 foot back and braced, Unit 01 holds it at eye level. Eyes flashing, glowing, a burst of steam escapes the nostrils of its demonic mask. Only enraged, only driven by hunger and pain, the pale red form of Gagil dives into the deep. The water lapping waves against the carrier deck before the light around the Angel shifts. With speed and mass on its side, it breaks the surface. Its entire bulk clears the water, mouths open, eyes centered on the Eva, and roaring like the unchained beast it is. And finally given a clear view of the target, Unit 01 shifts its entire weight and swings. The blade cuts the air, leaving a trace of the orange light. The air shifts, the air cuts, and air itself becomes the blade, crossing the distance before silently passing through Gagil itself. The angel hangs in the air. A low, mournful wail escapes its mouth, the final sound it will be permitted to make, before it parts diagonally down the middle. The core cracks and collapses, shattering in a small shower of blood and crystal before the great bulk of the 6th angel glows, flashes, and finally explodes. As the light clears and the ocean rocks the fleet, Unit 01 releases its grip on the sword. Lines of white wrap around it and it vanishes, returning to the Dirac, before it pitches back and collapses onto the deck of the carrier as the glow in its eyes fades. In Central Dogma, Rhea claps her hands together and squeals. "Oh my God!" she screams. They explode. My life has new meaning. Sitting at the highest station, Kozufu Atsuki raises an eyebrow. Gendo Igari blinks. "We need to switch that girl to decaf,"